Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get the Rant podcast with your host, Grim. And if you haven't been paying attention, I would like to welcome you to the class war that has taken place all over the globe. So this class war, I consider to really the official kickoff date, in my mind, is 1981. That's where it really accelerated under Ronald Reagan with his trickle-down economics. But it's been going on much longer. It just accelerated with Reagan. We can attribute this class war going all the way back to the foundation of this country, but more specific would be when Woodrow Wilson created the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, our founders, they fought hard against the central bank, and they wholeheartedly were against the central banking industry. Thomas Jefferson believed that the banking system was corrupt and a blot on the Constitution. And George Washington once said that paper money ruins commerce, oppresses the honest, and opens the door to fraud and injustice. But when it comes to talking about the class war that is taking place right now, we have to understand the mindset of these corporate billionaires and the way they look at things. The average American, we think about things in the context, as far as lifespan goes, of leaving things to our children and our grandchildren. So we're thinking about the future in terms of 1 or 2 generations. Whereas the corporate billionaire, they're thinking about all of the wealth and all of the power that they have consolidated unto themselves. They are playing the long con. They're not thinking just their children and their grandchildren. They are thinking about the way their corporations can hold power for generation after generation after generation. They're not even in the same realm as the average American worker. So you see, they have the amount of money that it would take 50 lifetimes to spend. And they've gotten that money by bribing their way to the top with all of these politicians. They are thinking of the long con, and they are not even in the same place as the rest of us. They're thinking about the long-term implications of their company, of their power. They are all about consolidating that wealth to themselves and into their family. When you look at these things, you have to look at it in a different light. Right, because they're not worried about their lifetime or even their kids' lifetime. They're thinking a greater scheme down the road, a power structure. When you're thinking about people like J.P. Morgan and Chase, the Rothschilds, the Bilderberg Group. Now you have Elon Musk. You have all of these rich billionaires who are more concerned with consolidating all of the power and all of the wealth unto themselves for generation after generation after generation. So you have to remember that when you're looking at the class war. It's the long con. But we're living in a day and a time at the moment where class consciousness is really starting to peak. And it's been peaking. And it was peaking before Luigi and that United Healthcare CEO. It's been peaking before that happened. But Luigi helped push it to the forefront just a little bit more. It got the corporate billionaire's attention, and so now it was being talked about. And the media made such a charade of that thing, marching him through New York City, with the mayor behind him. They made such a parade about it because they're scared. It's about fear, and they want you, the people, to know that they're cracking down on this. And they will not tolerate people stepping out of line against the corporate rulers who actually own this country. America was bought and sold a long time ago, and now it's just accelerated as Elon Musk just purchased the United States of America for $250 million from the hands of Donald Trump, the greatest grifter we've ever seen run for president. But in the 1980s, when Ronald Reagan decided that he was going to start really accelerating this program with his trickle-down economics bullshit, that's when it started to become more and more noticeable for the average American. We started having to work longer hours. Our paychecks didn't go as far. And I know everybody on the right likes to talk about inflation and printing money, and that's the only cause. But that's far from the case. You see, the problem is a lot of these people attribute these high prices to inflation. And in some situations, that is correct. But as we've seen, especially since the pandemic of COVID, is that more and more it's greedflation. You see these CEOs in interviews all the time. You can Google them and find them everywhere, where they're admitting to the American public that they're raising prices not because of inflation, but because they can. And this is the issue. It is about a transfer of wealth from middle income and low income America going all the way to the top. And it's been that way for a long time, but thanks to Reagan, it has made that process so much easier. And now we have Donald Trump coming into the White House once again with more tax breaks, deregulation of industries, and getting rid of the EPA and defunding education. There's a reason that they want to defund education in America. There's a reason that they are trying to do this. Why? They want school choice, is what they call it. They want parents to be able to send their kids more to these private schools, which in the majority of times, these private schools happen to be also a religious school. It is in these schools that they are able to indoctrinate these young minds so much easier into the idea of religion, Christian nationalism. That's what this is about. Right now, what we are seeing happen in this country is a vast acceleration of the takeover that's been going on for a long time. It's been a slow burn up to this point, but now we're going to see it in full effect. With Donald Trump in the White House, Elon Musk, and Vivek Ramaswamy, it's going to be accelerated because Trump owns the Senate, he owns the House, and of course he's in the White House. So nothing's off limits to him. It was just a couple weeks ago that we were hearing Republicans complain that they were sick of all of these big bills, that they wanted everything to be in a separate bill, smaller, so that the American people could see what's in them. But that wasn't true at all. And we know it's not true at all because look what they're doing now. Trump wants to push through one big bill to include his tax cuts, his immigration policies, and all of the other things that is on the billionaire's wish list. And the sad thing about this class war, more than anything else, is that most of the right-wing Republican voter base is low income. They're not living the high life. They're dependent on a lot of these programs that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Vivek want to get rid of. Most of these Republican voters live in poor red states and are working jobs where they're severely underpaid, and they rely on things like food stamps. Their children rely on things like free lunches at schools. They rely on Social Security and disability benefits and VA benefits. Well, these are the things that the Republican Party and Donald Trump want to remove and get rid of. There was an interview not too long ago, I can't remember which senator it was, a Republican senator, and he said that nothing's off the table. Social Security's not off, Social Security is on the table. Disability's on the table. And then he also said that the Democrats just need to have the stomach for it. There was a vast difference in the 80s and all the time period up until now between Donald Trump and what's been going on. A huge difference where the corporations, they used to try to hide their contempt for the American worker and for the poor and the middle class. But now in the year 2025, they don't hide it anymore. They tell you exactly what they want, exactly what they're going to do, using things such as immigration and a lot of their racist ideologies. They feed on people's fears And so now, most of the Republican voter base don't even realize that they are being took because they are so invested into this movement called MAGA. They are so invested into their political identity that they cannot admit that they are wrong. And this is a dangerous place for America to be. During COVID, during that pandemic, we had one of the largest transfers of wealth ever in the history of the United States, from the poor and the middle class going all the way to the top. And it's not stopping there. There's a reason they want to cut all of these things. They want to get rid of the EPA. Why? So corporations can have an easier time setting up shop and not having to worry about safety regulations for people, safety regulations for their workers, or environmental protections. There was a time in this country when our rivers and our lakes were so damn polluted that you couldn't go into the water, but we cleaned it up through the EPA. We made great strides in that, but they want to roll back the clock. They want to roll back those changes. They want to use your local lakes, your local rivers, and your parks and recreation as a dumping ground for their toxic shit. All in the name of profit. So now they are setting it up so that they can have freedom to deliver all these toxins wherever they want with no repercussions. And now we're going to, what? The people that live in these surrounding areas are going to have to put up with rising levels of cancer rates, rising death rates. This is sick, but this is what's coming to America under the leadership of the billionaire class. This would happen regardless whether it was Trump or anybody else. You see, because corporate America and corporations around the world have bought and sold this country. Our leaders are merely puppets in the White House. But when you have a leader like Donald Trump, who honestly doesn't give a shit where most of the American people stand, and he's got nothing left to lose. He's 78 years old. It's not like he's going to be around for the next 20 or 30 years. This is his last grab, and he has complete control. He doesn't care. There's no worry about legacy there for him. So now he can willfully just accelerate all of this shit. They have tricked and manipulated their entire voter base into believing once again that somehow these billionaire class care about you. They care about your needs and they care about your struggles. And that if you're just a good worker and you put in 80 to 100 hours a week and you destroy your body making them profits, that eventually it's all going to trickle down to you. We've seen this line. We've had over 40 years of failed economic policies under trickle-down economics. And yet here we are, fighting the same battle as always, because people keep buying into it. There's a giant disconnect between the older generation. You see, they didn't have credit scores. They didn't have to worry about a lot of the shit that most people have to worry about nowadays. So they could go buy a house in the 60s and in the 70s and in the 80s. They could go buy a house and not have to worry about a credit score affecting them. But now everybody after that does. So they don't understand the plight of the younger generations when all of this stuff is happening. They don't see the disconnect between Generation X and the millennials and so on compared to the boomers. And the cost of living back in those days was much easier. All of these things have been accelerated because of Ronald Reagan. The insurance companies, look what's happening with insurance. It's just another scheme, another transfer of wealth. People are seeing their home insurance all across this country increase by anywhere from 35 to 50% this year. And it's not just your homeowner's insurance, it's your car insurance. They are making it purposely unaffordable for the American population. This is a great tactic. This is a way that they can come in and they can steal the land. It's a money grab because most people, if you have a mortgage, you have to have homeowners insurance. Well, if the insurance rates become so high, or another one that they're doing is they are not covering certain areas anymore, well, now you can no longer get homeowners insurance. And so then you are technically defaulting on your mortgage. And so that house and that property goes back to the bank so they can resell it to the next person, and for a profit, of course. I really wish the people of this country would understand and look at what's really happening. It's in plain sight. They're not even hiding it. The American population has to put away their political identities and really grasp what is happening in this country and what is happening to the average American worker. We are being decimated and we are being wiped out. And it's done by design. This class war didn't happen accidentally. It is a direct result of policies that are being influenced by lobbyists and corporate billionaires. What's interesting is I keep seeing a lot of these Republican voters talk about, oh, we need to get money out of politics, and that is true. But yet they elected the richest cabinet in history. It makes no sense. You see, they know we need to get the money out of politics. They know we need to get the corporations and the lobbyists out of our politics. But they're okay with it as long as it's their team that's benefiting from the win. But really, the average American worker and the average American Republican voter is not the ones winning. We are not winning. You won in name only. You won an election. A Republican won an election. But you haven't won anything. In fact, you have just accelerated the destruction of the American worker. The American worker can no longer afford just the basics and the necessities to live. They can no longer afford their rents. They can no longer afford their groceries. They can no longer afford health insurance. They can no longer afford to put their kids through school. They can no longer afford to take vacations. This is not the American dream that we all aspired to. Where the hell did we sign up for this? I don't remember saying, yes, please destroy the American dream, Mr. Politician. Please make it that much more difficult for all of us to survive with the basic necessities. I don't think I know any American who said, yes, I want to work 2 and 3 jobs and my spouse has to work 2 and 3 jobs just to pay the damn bills and never be able to take a vacation. You get no fruits of your labor anymore. And the class war is now about to kick into high gear. And America will be a dumping ground and a playground for the corporate billionaire class. What can we do about it? That's always the next greatest question. What can we do about it as the American people? Well, in all honesty, I don't think there's a whole lot we're going to be able to do about it at the moment. It's going to take that tipping point. It's going to take the majority of this country to suffer financially so bad that all of their anger collectively rises up and they start eating their own party and they start realizing that these people were never out to benefit us. And yes, I'm ranting about the Republican Party most of all because they're the ones that just won the election. They're the ones that are just in charge now. But it goes both sides, Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't fucking matter. The real leaders of this country are the corporate billionaire class, and they don't give a shit about the American people. And you definitely do not want your country to be run like a fucking business. Think about all that it entails. Every time you go to work for an employer, what is their goal? Their goal is profit. And how do they get that profit? Well, they decrease the labor costs. They decrease your wages. They decrease your hours. And they cut benefits. Well, this is the same approach that Elon Musk, Vivek, and Donald Trump are trying to apply to the American government. The American government should not be run like a fucking business. We do not want them to cut all of our benefits. The government's there to support the American people and to help us to expand. At least that's what the idea of it was. But no, we don't want it run like a goddamn business because they're going to cut all of our benefits. They're going to cut everything that would give the American citizen a fucking fighting chance at anything. And so I think that no real change is coming. No real change is going to happen until we get to that tipping point to where the majority of Americans can't fucking take it anymore. then we might start seeing some change. But right now, the corporate billionaires of this country and of the world are starting to realize that people are becoming conscious of this class war, and they're afraid. The whole purpose of banning TikTok is just so that this message doesn't keep spreading. They want to control not only all of the politics, but they want to control all the news as well. They want to have everything in their power in one central location so that they control the narrative no matter what. It's as dangerous times for America, and we're just getting started. This has been the long con, and there's more to come. And so I hope as you go throughout your day, if you are a Republican voter or a MAGA supporter, that you realize that you've been sold a bill of goods, and you would have been sold that same bill of goods with a Democrat or with a Republican, but only now you've accelerated that. Only now it's accelerated. And that's okay. Maybe that's what we need, is the acceleration of this to happen. So maybe we can come out of this class war on top. This is Grim with Get to Rant, and I'll talk to you guys again in the next podcast.